Alright guys, Hachikramiki again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. For the 6th time this season, Toronto and FaZe face off, Scrappy versus Drazah yet again, and that's expected. The beef went down as usual, but it was a fascinating series from start to finish. A banger game 5, highly controversial game 3, and then Scrappy, as always, after getting the victory. Massive trash talk on the timeline. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, this is from the Process episode that drops today, discussing what looks like a return to the Hex Quarters. This has been made quite clear by what the Optic guys have been talking about today, and like it's been quite obvious now. The Envy headquarters that is right in the heart of downtown Dallas, that massive square foot facility, whatever Hastro used to talk about it as, right next to the American Airlines Center. It cannot be cheap to rent that place, I don't imagine. Probably Envy came into that arrangement. I kind of forget the actual timeline, but it must have been like 2018, 2019, 2020 when the VC money was absolutely flowing. Nowadays, it's a slightly different story. An Optic, I imagine, despite the fact that the level of production they can do from that facility is mega, I guess from their point of view, they've got a couple of teams. The facility there is massive, that Optic have, and it's still, you know, Envy is not going to go away. Envy's basically already gone away. Optic kind of came on board with Envy. I don't think that that relationship is going to change as a result of this. I think this just seems like a business decision to say, hey, it doesn't really make sense renting all of this massive amount of space in Dallas when we can go back to Frisco, right? Okay, downtown Dallas, go back to Frisco or some other location and run it from the Hex Quarters again. This will be interesting for what it means for the Optic guys, just because, you know, Scump obviously gets his Uber there every day, whatever it is. 35 minutes back and forth for the watch parties. Dashie relocated down there, so like Dashie loved the Hex Quarters. I'm sure he's not going to be too mad about going back, but he might be mad that he relocated close to the facility, but it is what it is. And yeah, interesting confirmation from Optic what their future is going to be and how Hex perceives kind of the next iteration of the organization. This is a pretty crazy stat to mention actually as well here. So 1400 days ago, or well, famously, the record for Clay was 1400 days between event victories, right? It was a pretty big deal when Clay got to 1000 days without a victory from 2015, and then he of course got his victory after 1400 days. He's now at, after winning the World Championship in 2020, 1391 days, and he's just a few days away from basically tying or breaking his streak of days without an event victory. The funny thing is that was noticed by TJ Alley's dab pen is that Major 4, the championship Sunday, is on his 1400th day. So look, it's not gonna happen, and I'm not even gonna like pretend that it's gonna happen, but you know, how about it, right? If there was some world Kalista and the Ravens were to win Major 4, and it would kind of be written in some degree, and of course if they did win it, they'd qualify effortlessly for the World Championship. We'll talk about the Vegas versus Thieves series in depth tomorrow. Just to mention though that Optic, of course, needing to try and make the winners bracket, they need Vegas to take the victory here, because if Thieves win, that basically guarantees Optic have to beat Toronto, and of course, well, beating Toronto and Boston this weekend for Optic is going to be a harder task than just beating Boston, especially based on the evidence of today. Let's talk though, one of the series that I thought was going to be an absolute banger, Miami versus Surge. It proved to be. I mean, I talked about it earlier today. Not going to lie, my predictions lately in terms of when a series is going to go game 5 have been pretty damn good. I said to you guys earlier today, this is going to go 5, Miami are going to win. That's what happens. My predictions aren't perfect, but, you know, I'll take it when they happen. This is a banger, though, right? Because in many ways, this is a test for me. You've got the Vegas question, you've got the Thieves question, but in terms of consistently performing against the teams they should perform against, whether that's beating or just being competitive with, Miami and Surge have arguably been those two teams as of late. Vegas have shown their stints, but then they get 3-0'd by the Los Angeles Grillers. Thieves are just too hit or miss and not icy enough. Surge and Miami are like the two teams that I can actually genuinely look at and say, you know what, they could be a dark horse at Major 4 or even potentially the World Championship. So banger game, to be honest. Miami take the game 1, Surge bounce back in the game 2, then a round 5 Karachi control. Miami take the dub in this one. They take the offense in the end, take the 2 on advantage, lose the game 4, and it goes to a game 5. I mean, insane ending, by the way, to the game 4 as well. It was just really entertaining from start to finish, this one. Both teams with great play styles to watch, going absolutely back and forth. Surge get the job done. Looked like there was going to be a serious comeback on the cards here, by the way. Like, actually, Miami brought it back really big time, but Surge, they just about had enough patience. Brizzy comes in with a massive couple of kills, and that is enough to get the victory. So they take it to 5, but in the end, in game 5, Miami have the better of them. And this is the key talking point really with Miami right now. Their search and destroy, yes, they lost the game too, but their search is genuinely very good and competitive against basically everyone they play. And that is a serious advantage when you play teams like Surge, teams even like New York and Optic, and teams further up than that. If they want to seriously win an event, make it to the World Championship or try and make a serious run, they're going to have to get some upset victories. A lot of the time, those upset victories, if they are going to happen, they're going to happen in 5. You've got to be a good search and destroy team if you want to be a serious dark horse threat, and Miami are showing that they can do exactly that. So I was just really impressed by Miami, the progress they've made over the last couple of months. You know, the talk at the start of the season, I remember it was, oh, Miami, these guys, you know, Spanish players, they're taking up a spot from players that could be in the league. They're not very good and all this. And I think they've proven, having worked through a couple of roster iterations, these guys are legit, and another very impressive victory. This was an interesting thing that was mentioned by Ben J. Nassim Metals with a banger here as well, Vicar with 111 kills. He mentioned that Miami have not lost to a bottom 8 team in their last 10 series. That's not quite true. The number is actually 8 series, but it's still pretty insightful, isn't it? The fact that if you look at their last couple of stages, their last few months really, they've lost to Toronto, they lost to Optic, FaZe, New York, Optic, and then Thieves. So Thieves on the 20th of April, the Major 3 qualifiers, they lost 3-2 to Thieves. But since then, every team I wouldn't even say should beat, but every team that's a bottom 8 team, they've beaten. So Surge, they beat them, Gorillas, Vegas, Thieves again, they beat, Rocker, Gorillas, Raven, Surge. Like, everyone they should be beating, they are beating them. And even the series that they're losing, you know, even the FaZe series, they won a map in that one. You know, even the Optic series they played in the Major was actually pretty competitive if you look back on it. So Miami is certainly a team to watch going forwards, but let's talk about the drama of the day really, and that was Ultra versus FaZe. It was always going to be this way. They've played plenty of times this season. I believe now was the 6th time this year they actually played against each other, and it was another absolute cracker. For FaZe, I guess one of the big questions is, firstly, if ever they go undefeated in a qualified stage, they never win the Major. So in some sense, people are saying, oh, congrats FaZe, you're Major 4 champions, because they've broken the undefeated curse in the qualifiers, and therefore they're now going to win everything, apparently. Not sure that necessarily holds true. We'll see. But for them, it's more about the map set, right? Because going from now to the end of the season, there's been a big talk about their sub-base. We'll get onto that in a second. But also their Vista. They've now lost this a good fair few times lately, when it looked like they were going to be an absolute dominant force on this map. And not going to lie, one of the other battles of the day was in the MVP race, right? Scrappy versus Simp. Who's going to take it? And to be fair, Simp, for his standards, had a pretty underwhelming series. Yes, the propane tank was the MVP, we'll get onto that, but yeah, Scrappy, when it mattered, game 1, 34-24, takes the game 1. The game 2 goes back to FaZe. It looked like, to be honest, that Toronto were maybe going to take this one. They got the first blood in the round 11. There was actually some buffering that happened here, so some people didn't even get to watch what was going on, which was unfortunate for sure, but aBeZy getting this kill on Clinics was massive, tying up the rounds, and then FaZe actually get the job done. But this Karachi search is going to be a crucial battleground from now to the end of the year. It's a map that FaZe have definitely come a long way on. Toronto used to really like it. They still do. And this is one of those maps that we're going to see at the Majors and at the World Championship, and is really going to turn the tide of how some of these Grand Final series go. But yes, in the end, Simp gets the kill onto Envoy. Insight left in a 1 versus 3. Nothing you can do. FaZe tie up the series at that point. But this was the talking point on the high-rise control. And I can believe it. I want to say that I can't believe it, but I absolutely can. The developers promised us. They told us, look guys, don't worry, the propane tanks are being all random and they're destroying the competitiveness of the game. We're going to fix it. No problem. And we've sorted it. And then people were like, I'm still getting blown up by these tanks. And they were like, okay, yeah, our bad guys. But we got you this time. The latest patch update has resolved all of the problems. And here we are, in, thankfully, what is not a critical series. But I'm not gonna lie, if I was a team fighting for World Championship qualification, I would be livid, to say the very least, that my chances have been ended kind of like this. And imagine this happens, at Major 4, or especially imagine it happens at the World Championship, right? I mean, this was just absurd. Round 5, Toronto versus FaZe. Toronto on the attack, trying to get the A point captured, and Cellium, basically the propane tank just blows up, kills Draz and aBeZy, and therefore because Cellium double team kills, he then also gets the suicide penalty. He goes down, probably gets like a respawn delay, like an absolute shambles. And well, you see it from this angle as well. So Toronto are still feeling good at this point. They still feel like there's a chance. But aBeZy gets a 2-piece, kills CleanX, kills Scrappy, and then bang, everyone dies. Draz goes down, aBeZy goes down, Cellium goes down, and then number 2 and Envoy just waltzes onto the point. And Envoy, by the way, was getting slammed. He was 11 in 24, but the guy just walks on, and yeah, I mean, Cellium stays dead for a long time after the delay, obviously, because he's got the suicide penalty. So it's just so bad how this is even possible. And by the time Cellium spawns back up again, obviously at that point it's game over. So yeah, Toronto take advantage of the opportunities, and they're obviously hyped about it, but like, what a disgusting moment. I mean, this is, as is said by Mark in the replies, like straight up embarrassing for competitive Call of Duty that's happened. I mean, there's no skill involved there. There's nothing that Toronto did that's like, oh wow, what a great play from Toronto to cause that to happen. It's just pure randomness, and I can't believe, well, I can't believe, as I said, but the fact that this hasn't been solved, the fact they're not talking about it, I just don't understand. Like, it's such an embarrassment for the league. But like, this is the COD League, baby. We know that these things have happened for years and will likely continue to happen again. But because of that, they go to a game 4, a sub-base hardpoint, a map that Toronto really like, and a map that FaZe are probably their worst hardpoint, certainly their worst hardpoint in the game this year. But FaZe win it relatively comfortably, and this is one of the things that I'm definitely keeping my eyes on, right? We know that FaZe have tried to grind out sub-base. They've tried to get better at it so that when they play Toronto, when they play Optic, they can actually challenge and beat them when it matters. Now we're potentially starting to see that from FaZe. Their sub-base hardpoint is getting significantly better. Now maybe it's too early to say, just because they've basically won one map against a good team on it. You know, it wasn't long ago they lost to Ravens, had the close game against Gorillas, so I'm not sold that FaZe's sub-base is like fixed, but we're certainly seeing signs of it. But in the end, Ultra get the victory in 5. The 6-star search and destroy goes their way. There were some bang arounds in it. Inside had a nice little 1v1 clutch against aBeZy earlier on. Draz finds himself in a 1 versus 2. Bomb down, goes down here to CleanX. CleanX with a monster series as well. I mean, this guy, we talk about Scrappy, and for good reason, on this team, but CleanX has, over the course of the season, been so unbelievably good. I mean, I talked about him last week being underrated. I think he's been underrated for a long time, to be honest, and the level of consistency he brings with his slaying and with his pace is like really, really unprecedented, right? Like, there aren't many players at all that are able to play as consistently as he does at the pace that he does. Like, you see it from aBeZy, fast-paced SMG player. You're not seeing the consistent impact even from aBeZy than you are, I would say, with CleanX this season, certainly not lately. So anyway, Toronto get the victory. And as expected, we get the bagger tweet in the timeline. Here comes Toronto, you know, all bark, no bite. Here's Draza, and obviously FaZe kind of clapping back with their response. Like, it's an online series, and as Draza says, the only response that he gave, GG's Toronto lost 2-3, shout out to the propane tank, giving them a free map, he says, and very much arguably, had that not happened, it may have been a clean FaZe 3-1, and we'd have a very different talking point today, and Draz would have tweeted something probably, and Scrappy and whatever. I don't think there was much, you know, Darian drama or Keeks drama to talk of yet. Scrappy even did call the Simp and aBeZy boys the midgets, and he said, yeah, fair play, probably for Major 4, the midgets are going to be the favourites, or they're certainly going to be in the conversation. So yeah, Scrappy obviously ain't slowing down. This though was the big tweet, as always, the piano teeth, right? I forget exactly, was it not Darian, so Scrap's girl, that came up with the piano teeth thing for Draza? I think it may have been because, you know, Draza got the veneers. I think you guys know the story on this anyway. So Scrappy's leading into it, and he puts this straight on the timeline. GG's FaZe, 1-3-2, and yeah, here we go again. So the piano teeth beef is never going to get old. As I say, the 6th time they've faced off this season, and the drama is certainly there. But as FaZe say, look, congrats to the series MVP. The propane tank got the job done. So important in some sense of both teams just to get their bearings, but at the end of the day, they're both going to be top seeds for the major. It just makes things interesting going into the LAN even more so, because it's not like FaZe are unbeatable. We knew they were not unbeatable, but it's like we thought maybe they were another significant step ahead here online. That's not true, it seems, and hopefully at the Major and certainly at Champs we get more legendary Ultra versus FaZe battles from now to the end of the season. So these were the numbers for the season, or these were the numbers for the game, and yeah, Simp in uncharacteristically poor series, right? I mean, 0.84, 14k damage, like he had the same damage and stats as Envoy, and he had a bit of a stinker certainly in the control, whereas on the other side, CleanX, 97 kills, Scrappy, 91 kills, aBeZy was actually their best performer on the series. Like, how often do you see Selim go negative? Doesn't happen that often, but Toronto are a team capable of allowing that to occur. So we'll talk Vegas Thieves tomorrow and all the other big storylines of the day. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.